Hello, and welcome back to another episode for the Project Seed Money podcast. My name is Sharissa Bradley, and I am so excited to be joined here today with Lilian Sue, PR coach. And I'm just so grateful that you are spending some time with us today, Lilian. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sharissa. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I want to just jump right in and ask about the process of working with you and how that kind of looks from the consumer side of things, getting in touch with you, and what that onboarding process would look like.
For authors and entrepreneurs that are looking to work with me, I do things a little differently compared to my colleagues in the PR industry. And what I mean by that is, as a PR coach, I am guiding and supporting authors to build and launch their own successful media campaigns with one-on-one sessions, tools, resources that not only focus on, hey, how can we build you a media campaign that's going to get your story and your books in front of the right audiences, but also address the mindset piece. So authors that I've worked with often have a lot of fear and anxiety when it comes to getting visible, right? And being vulnerable in their visibility when it comes to sharing their stories of why they wrote their memoir or why they put certain themes into their women's fiction novel or their fantasy novel, whatever genre it is. And I really work with them on the mindset piece to recognize, okay, like where is your fear and your anxiety coming from? What's triggering it? What are the root causes? And how do we address these causes and build healthy coping mechanisms so that you have them in your toolbox and you know how to deal with it the next time that fear or that anxiety comes up, like when you have a speaking engagement or the next time you're doing an interview, so that that fear and that anxiety doesn't paralyze you. And the reason why I really focus on that, in addition to the strategy, which is all about putting the nuts and bolts in place, right? Like, what are you pitching when it comes to your story? When it comes to building a media list, who do you want to get in front of, right? Like what podcasts, what blogs, what magazines are your readers following? What events are they attending? That it would be great to have you speak at or be a vendor at, things like that. But the reason why I really focus on the mindset piece that a lot of my colleagues in the PR industry tend to overlook is because when I was working primarily as a publicist doing the service provider side of things, I noticed the patterns. So I noticed the patterns of so many authors and entrepreneurs coming to us and saying, I'm here because someone else said I needed publicity and I don't even know what it is or what I want to do with it. And I just have no clue. And they're overwhelmed. You know, I have talked to numerous other authors who have scraped together 15, 20 grand and done a campaign and gotten some really fantastic interviews and came out the other side only to realize, wait a minute, this did not help me move the needle on book sales at all. And I think it's because I didn't feel comfortable enough to speak up with the PR agency and actually have that conversation with them about, like, these are my goals. This is what I'd like to do with my book. Can we focus on this area instead? And on the industry side, they did not ask the author those questions either. So for me as a coach, and the reason why I became a coach is not only did I want to leave my clients better off after having worked with me and giving them the tools, the resources, and most importantly, helping them build the confidence to find the right opportunities. I also wanted to guide them and support them to be able to make better informed decisions about their marketing and PR strategies and where their budgets are going, and to have the confidence to advocate for what their goals are. So when a client comes to me, the first thing we do is we have a call. What are you working on? What is your book about? What sort of things have you done to help market your book? How did they go? Did you have fun? Did you like them? I really try to get to the bottom of where an author and an entrepreneur is at in their business, in their marketing journey, and then looking at what is their current ecosystem to support a media campaign. Because the other missing piece, Sharissa, I find a lot of the time is people say, I got a ton of interviews and it didn't go anywhere. Well, did you have somewhere to send people? Because if you don't have a newsletter, you don't have a website, you don't have an incentive for them to follow you on social media, then that piece of media coverage that you have is not going to go anywhere, because everybody's like, oh, I heard this great podcast. Now what? I don't know how to get in touch with this author. I don't know, like, are they doing a book signing locally? I have no idea. So I really work with authors to figure out, it's like, okay, what have you done up until this point? What's your existing ecosystem? How do you want to continue moving the needle forward when it comes to book sales, when it comes to building your author brand and establishing yourself as an expert? And what are the obstacles and roadblocks getting in the way of that when it comes to your mindset?
That's incredible. That sounds like an incredibly well-rounded system, and something, in my opinion, that I feel is lacking in most areas is that foundational piece. If we don't have the tools to move forward, then we're never really going to be able to leave your services or be able to be independent or be on our own. And it sounds like you're trying to build people to a level of confidence that they can competently move forward on their own.
Absolutely, yeah, because the really funny thing is that the industry standard, the industry belief, and I was taught this as well. My very first PR job when I was working for an agency, my former boss said to me, she said, you never give away your media list. She said, that is your bread and butter. You have spent months, if not years, cultivating these relationships. You hang on to that like it's solid gold. And when I became a coach, I thought to myself, and I realized where the gaps are in the industry too, because so many of the tools and the platforms are catered to enterprise level and agency level, where you can afford to shell out like $8,000, $10,000 a year to access those databases, right? So I thought, why gatekeep? Because I've been hearing over and over again, and this is exactly why I wrote my book as well, from entrepreneurs and authors that are like, I want to do this. My issue is I have no idea how to find these media outlets or these people, or, how much time and energy is this going to cost me? Because they did not get into business to become a publicist, right? You are a writer for a reason. That is your zone of genius. So when you don't know where to turn and you have this lack of knowledge and these lack of resources, so many authors just say, well, I might as well not do it because it takes up so much time and energy, and I just don't have the budgets to do that sort of thing. And when I wrote my book, I made a point of tailoring it, how to make publicity work for your authors, your filmmakers, your startup founders, your entrepreneurs, because they are a group that the industry traditionally leaves behind. So I always thought that there was no value in gatekeeping things, because even if you give somebody a list, do they know what to do with it?
No, and they may not even have the confidence and the tools to see that through, right? Or to answer the call to action. I posted on the Facebook group the other day, like, hey, I have these slots open. And out of 900 people, only 6 people answered the call to action. So
Mhm.
there's a fear, right? Of like, oh, I don't want to be seen yet. I'm not ready. So even with the opportunity directly in front of people, sometimes that confidence is just so lacking. Who wants
Mhm.
to hear my story? Well, you wrote a story, so we want to hear it.
Yeah,
Everyone.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing that I find with a lot of authors, particularly more so fiction authors as opposed to nonfiction, is this idea that they want to hide behind their book. It's like, I released this thing. Why can't it do the talking for me and everything? And I have to say to them, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Your book is amazing. Here's the problem. Readers, reviewers, media platforms out there, they all have limited time, energy, attention span, and budget to spend on books. And you are not the only author that writes in this genre. So what you are banking on, if you're not going out there and sharing your story, is your book cover and your blurb to do the marketing for you, which I would never say doesn't work. It can work and it does work. But if you were to put, 5 books side by side, similar genre, similar cover, similar premise, how are readers going to choose? The power of publicity and great PR, I think, that a lot of authors tend to overlook is the storytelling piece and the relationship building piece. Now, when it comes to storytelling, it's not just talking about the story within your book. Every single one of us that writes and is a writer, and for me, I'm working on my own fiction work right now too, so I absolutely get it. We put parts of ourselves into our books. So what they want to know is, what's the story behind it? Why these characters? Why these themes? Why this setting? Why this genre? What do you want people to get out of the book when they read it? And the relationship building piece is also super powerful because on social, it's reliant on you to come up with your content. You, or if you have a team of people helping you with that, PR has the powerful distinction of allowing you to appear on someone else's platform to borrow their audience. And in doing so, that platform, podcast, blog, magazine, whatever it is, creates this high quality content on your behalf. And it's credible and trustworthy because, as a media platform, they have spent years cultivating their reputations and they have spent years building up a content library featuring stories of fantastic authors that their audiences know, hey, if I'm listening to this, I know what kind of content, what sort of stories I'm going to get. So in building these relationships, what you're also getting is you are building third party credibility, trust, and clout for your author brand that isn't just you on social trying to convince people to buy your book.
It's amazing. And yeah, it's such an interesting thing about leverage when we have these other people that we trust and we build these relationships with. I think that's incredible. I do want to ask, when should the author be thinking about coming to you? Like at what point in their process are they've already published, or maybe are they thinking about this part before they've even published to start leveraging themselves and their story? When should they timeline wise be thinking about reaching out to you?
I've worked with authors in all different parts of the process. I've helped clients get media coverage after their books have been out for over a year or 6 months. But in general, what I guide authors on is you really want to start thinking about what kind of strategy you want to build, not just for launch, but for the long term, when you are finalizing your editing, because by then you will have had a decent idea of like, okay, I know what my blurb is, my cover design is almost done. I have an idea of the types of reviewers and audiences I want to reach with this book. That's when we should really start talking, because building a media strategy of any sort takes time. And you want to be able, ideally, to have ARC copies of the book that we can give out to podcasters and bloggers and people like that prior to your release date. So not only do they have an opportunity to interview you beforehand, they've also had an opportunity to read the book. So they have the additional context, their interview questions are much richer, and you come out with not just a review, but a two-part media opportunity, because you have a review, you have the interview, and depending on the opportunity, let's say a podcast, you might get a third opportunity to come back and actually do a live Q&A with the listeners from your episode.
That sounds so amazing. So it sounds like they should probably be coming to you a little bit before the book is out, because you want to be able to get those art copies out. You want to be able to build the buzz and build that strategy, but also not too soon, because you do need to have things like maybe the cover, the design, the branding, that kind of stuff, and the target audience a little bit figured out. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there needs to be if we're doing a media campaign for you as an author and for your book, you want to be able to have it available to read for the people that we are reaching out to for media opportunities and for events as well. Like if you want to do speaking gigs and there's panel opportunities or an opportunity for you to present a workshop for an association, you want to at least give the organizers a chance to get an idea of what your book is about, so that it gives the event some rich context, right? When they're asking questions or fielding questions from the audience, they're not coming at it completely in the dark, you know?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And it does make sense that you would probably want to give yourself, I'm thinking this sounds like months in advance. Like maybe if you ideally had it, maybe even 6 months, so that you could kind of build that strategy, have an opportunity. When we print books, if you're printing them early, you might get that like do not resale thing. So like, give yourself time to be able to get a real print copy of the book, something that looks nice, that people could take pictures of and things like that. I do want to ask if there are any red flags in your industry, the authors who are looking for this type of support and they're interviewing for PR coaches. What are some of the red flags that they might just immediately run from? Like, that is not the person for you.
Well, there's a few. I will say this: if the publicist or the PR coach, over the course of your initial phone call or Zoom call with them, they don't already have some ideas for you, that's an indication that maybe their passion is not with your particular project. So that's a possible red flag. If they are not willing to ask you questions, so if they're not asking you questions about what your goals are, what you want to do, what your ecosystem is, they're not interested in actually learning more about your particular situation. Because as I mentioned earlier in that scenario that I was told by an author, what can sometimes happen is with a lot of PR agencies that have larger teams, more overhead, you get into a unfortunate state of complacency, and you just kind of rinse and repeat campaigns, and you begin to think that, yes, theoretically You can have a successful campaign for anybody, but you have to be willing to do your research. You have to be willing to ask questions, and both the PR team or PR coach and author have to be on the same team. Because what I also say to authors is I can't do what I do without your input. So I am never going to push you towards something that doesn't feel good to you, right? So I'm never going to schedule 6 interviews in a week for you if you are someone who, lives with a chronic illness, you have kids, you're dealing with other demands. I would never do that. But in order for me to know where you're at, you have to tell me. You have to be willing to give your input on where you want to go, because at the end of the day, this is your project, your brand, your reputation that's on the line here. I am the person that is giving you the tools and the resources to make those connections with the media, but I'm not the one that's necessarily doing it for you. So it's really looking at, is the publicist even asking me questions, right? Do they seem passionate? Like, do they have ideas for me already? When it comes to promises that they make, publicity is not a discipline that you can make guarantees on. I've been in publicity for over 10 years, in business for over 18 now, and I can tell you that I am always surprised constantly by who takes an interest in my clients' projects. Always. And that is the beauty of it, because someone who is in your genre and who really focuses on supporting authors in your genre and who has the audience and the platform to back it up is going to get your book in front of more readers than a publicity firm that will say, promise you, hey, I can get you into Forbes or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, when in reality, what they're actually doing is, the reason they can guarantee that is because they're paying for that coverage. And even after they pay for that coverage, this is the misconception a lot of people have about mainstream media, is that, are your audiences actually spending time there? Are they actually reading these publications expecting to see an author like you or a story like yours, right? So it's really about getting clear on, like, finding someone who has ideas for you, who is passionate, who does not make guarantees, but that has a strategy in mind to help you get to where you need to go, and who is also willing to work with you on it.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think that's going to help a lot of people to understand, like, where we just should just shut that door if it's not coming back in the way that they want them to communicate. In line with that same question, what types of questions should the authors be prepared to ask? Because maybe they don't even know enough about the industry to know what questions they should be asking. And it helps to know that the publicist or the PR coach should be asking them some questions about their project as well. But I wonder what the author should bring to the table as far as, like, what they need to be knowing from that person.
Well, asking about budgets, of course, is obviously pretty important. But even beyond that, really asking things like, how do you work in terms of timelines and scheduling for clients, right? Do you have experience in my genre or in my industry or something similar to that? If they don't, questions about, like, how do you communicate or work with clients? Like, do you have an initial call? Is it okay if I send emails checking up on things, or do we have like a wrap up report on results that we get, things like that, because it's also really important for authors to know what the publicity team is doing to help them get those results, right? If there are changes that need to be made or maybe another angle to take, the PR team should not be moving forward with that without the author's okay on it. So it's important that they have that consistent communication. It's important that they really outline, like, what does timelines and scheduling look like? What parts of things do you usually manage for authors and for your clients? Because it runs the gamut, right? I mean, in the author world, there are companies that will only do book reviews, right? Help you get those. There are companies out there that only help you focus on podcast interviews. But what if you want other things? It's like, hey, do you get magazine coverage for your clients? What other types of media coverage do you get for them? And is speaking gigs something that you help them work on as well, right? And each one of these questions will reveal for the author how that publicist, PR coach, or PR team works, what kind of services they provide, what their standard is for timeline scheduling and effective communication, and how they keep their clients informed about what's going on. Do we need to pivot? How are we going to change things? Like, all of these things are really, really important, because when you make the decision to embark on this, publicity is a long-term strategy. It's not instant gratification. We're not looking at it and being like, oh, one interview is going to help you sell 50 books. No, it's really about how can we build the foundation for an effective media campaign long term to allow you to continue to build your reputation as an author, to get more opportunities to speak, to do interviews, to appear on higher profile stages, and in turn have that translate to selling more books, getting more email subscribers, getting more social media followers, and growing your audience on a global scale. So because it's a long-term strategy, you really have to understand what's the cadence we're going to get into on communication, on reporting of media coverage and other results, on things like meetings. So if we need to change direction or we need to do something different because now we're focusing on getting speaking engagements as opposed to interviews, what did those timelines look like and how do we change things?
That's incredible. That's so much information. I feel like they're going to have like a little list now of things that they can ask and feel hopefully more empowered by this whole interview. I really appreciate that. My listeners are authors who are kind of on the fence about writing, and they have the story in their mind and they really want to get it out on paper, but they're scared, right? They're facing this fear and probably vulnerability and probably some of those deeper rooted issues. Is there anything that you can say to inspire my audience to just keep writing and continue to get their story out there?
Speaking as someone who's been a lifelong creative storyteller, I've been reading and writing fanfic on a personal level for 20 plus years. Some of my adult contemporary romance work that is in revisions right now originally started life as fanfic. So I can definitely speak to just the piece about continuing to write. I think at the end of the day, and keep in mind, I'm coming from the generation where if we wrote fanfic, we could post it. There's a lot of different websites out there still today that you could post to get reader feedback and things like that. That helps, I think, with the vulnerability piece in a sense that it's fiction. Maybe you're not writing it to be published for money or as a book, but it's still writing that you can be proud of It's about how you want to hone your craft. It's about how you want to practice. And it's ultimately about why did you decide to start writing to begin with? Like for me, I did it to vent. I did it because I was feeling creative. I did it because I am someone who is inspired all the time from songs I listen to, things I watch, things I read, and I will actually dream sequences, right? And I'm like, okay, like I got to get this down. Doesn't matter if I even publish it on a website or anything like that. I just have to get this down so I don't forget what it is. So if you're feeling on the fence about writing in general, I mean, to take that first step, remind yourself that nobody actually has to see it. You don't even have to publish it on a website. You don't have to put it on Wattpad. You don't have to put it on fanfiction.net. Wherever it is, you could just keep it to yourself as a Google Doc. You could have reams and reams of pages that you hand write. Whatever it is, if you have that story, for me, I write the stories that hang around. So the stories, the narratives that are still in my mind months, years later, I'm like, okay, now I know this is something that's going to stick. I need to get it down on paper. So I think it really comes down to, for that first initial step, just do it for yourself. Do it so you don't forget it. Do it so that you can have something to look back on as a foundation.
That's so inspiring. Thank you so much, Lilian. Can you please tell my audience how they can get a hold of you as a PR coach and also how they can find your book as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram at Lilian Sue PR Coach. I'm always on there sharing stories about my clients, talking about actionable strategies and practical tips. So they can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. I actually have a new Facebook group known as Booked, Featured, and Paid. And that is a Facebook group for authors and entrepreneurs that are looking for the right stages to get on and the right media platforms to get on to get interview opportunities. I'm offering free training on inside the Facebook group as well. They can follow me on LinkedIn, just search Lilian Sue. And I'm also happy to announce for any of your listeners who might be interested, might be a little bit farther along in the process of building their author brand, that I am offering a free one-on-one 5-day challenge. And in that challenge, what I'm going to do is show them the exact 4-step framework that they need to land their next media interview in 5 days. And I'm going to show it to them and guide them through it for free.
That is such an incredible opportunity. I hope that my audience is open to taking that opportunity. I'm going to make sure to have the links for that below as well. And then just quickly tell us about your book as well.
Well, the Powerful Publicity Prescription, as I mentioned earlier, I wrote it specifically for authors, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. And it will lead you through how to deal with mindset blocks like fear, anxiety, and frustration during the process. Each one of the building blocks step by step to launching a successful media campaign, including what not to do when you're sending out email pitches, when you're sending out pitches for speaking engagements, what not to do during interviews, as well as tips on what you should be doing. And you can find that book on my website at inretrospectwritingservices.com/books or on Amazon.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for spending this time with us today. It has been so valuable and I have learned a ton. So I'm sure my audience will as well. And I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode for Project Seed Money. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I will see you with another interview next week. Bye.